Next, we're so excited to have keynote speakers. All came from Washington, D.C. Some just arrived. Some arrived last night in the heavy rain from the airport to come to Kennesaw. First, I would like to welcome Honorable Ambassador Matt Murray. And by the way, after he spoke at SAUPO last year, he got a promotion. He was promoted to be U.S. Ambassador for Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation from Bureau of East Asian and Pacific Affairs, U.S. Department of State. Welcome to the stage. He worked really hard last year to make the USA the wonderful host country in San Francisco for world leaders to gather in November at the APEC conference last year, 2023. Welcome to the stage, Ambassador Matt Murray.
Thanks very much, and I think there's a presentation as well to go up. But it's great to be back in Atlanta, and it's especially great to be back at Kennesaw State. Thank you for the opportunity to return to SAUPO for a second year in a row. And yes, it probably was because I was here last year that I got a promotion to be ambassador. So certainly the conference can take credit for that. But it's great to be here to share some of the outcomes from our U.S. host year of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Gao for inviting me to return. It's a real honor. And obviously our work in APEC, which I'll explain a little bit more about in a minute, is really only one slice of what the Biden administration is trying to advance through the Indo-Pacific strategy. And so there's a number of different things that we're trying to do. And of course, this conference this week is at a really important time because we've had both the Prime Minister of Japan, Mr. Kishida, and the President of the Philippines, Mr. Marcos, come to Washington this week for high-level meetings with President Biden. And so it's a really opportune moment to reflect on what the administration is trying to do and in the Indo-Pacific region. So it was this time last year that we were right in the middle of it. We were right in the middle of our US APEC host year. And then we went on to host meetings in Detroit in May, in Seattle in August, and then, as Dr. Gao said, APEC Economic Leaders Week hosted by President Biden in San Francisco in November, which was before this week the last time Prime Minister Kishida and President Marcos were here, along with so many other leaders from around the region like President Xi, Prime Minister Trudeau, Prime Minister Albanese, and many others. So last year I provided a summary of APEC's objectives and how the United States wanted to advance economic cooperation in the region. And as a refresher, you can see the map here with the APEC economies. There are 21 APEC economies on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. They account for half of global trade, roughly, as well as 60% of GDP. And so this year, I want to focus on what we did do last year in our host year, which APEC has been around since 1989 and became a leaders level forum in 1993. And there's meetings all throughout the year. There's as many as 300 meetings throughout the year on a whole range of topics, on trade and investment, on innovation, on sustainability, inclusion, so very much tied into some of the topics that we discussed here this morning. And the 21 economies then meet throughout the year and try to come to agreement on some of these issues by November. So this particular keynote opportunity at this particular conference is perfectly in line with everything we were trying to do and everything you're trying to do here at SAUPO. And a few examples of the intersections between our APEC host year and this conference. First, we wanted to use the APEC host year to lead on multilateralism in the region. And there are many here gathered today, either in the room or online, from the diplomatic and business community who represent APEC economies, including, of course, Zhao Jianying of the China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, who you'll hear from in a moment. And we wanted to use the US APEC host year to enhance engagement with like-minded partners on trade and investment. I know there are some diplomatic representatives from Atlanta here today. But we also would run into different connections. We just heard from Jessica from YKK this morning, and one of the people I ran into at the APEC CEO Summit in San Francisco was Jim Reed, the YKK America CEO. And so trying to put together a lot of those connections to showcase our United States collaboration with economies like Japan. We wanted to use the US APEC host year to uphold international rules and norms, driving forward to address issues across policy work streams, including a priority which I know is of great interest to this audience and which was discussed this morning, which was finding pathways to advance a clean energy future and looking at sustainability. And I remember, not only did we have the great discussion this morning, but last year when I was here, had the opportunity to go out to Commerce and visit SK Innovation, had the opportunity to go out to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and hear about their sustainability initiatives. And so the point I'm trying to make is all of these things that we talked about last year, that I learned personally last year, we integrated into this agenda. And we also wanted to use, obviously, the US APEC host year to advance public-private collaboration, an area that Global Atlanta highlighted in its great article about APEC last year after this conference. One of our real champions on this was Atlanta-based US APEC Business Advisory Council member Laura Lane of UPS. And then, of course, SAUPO is all about public-private collaboration. So, again, another intersection. And finally, we wanted to use the APEC US host year to deliver policy outcomes on sustainability, inclusion, and resiliency, with a particular focus on ensuring underrepresented communities and small and medium-sized enterprises benefit from trade and investment. And so, really excited, and I know you will be too, to be joined today in this lunch session by one of the US government's real leaders in this regard, Joann Hill, from the Minority Business Development Agency, who you'll hear from in a moment. And sitting next to her, it's also great to see George Moy again, as he's been a long-time champion in this regard, who I met last year at SAUPO, and then also during an event in Chicago during the year. So again, lots of intersections between our agenda and your agenda. So, as some of you may recall from last year, our theme for our US APEC host year was creating a resilient and sustainable future for all, as we aim to work with the other 20 APEC partners to advance an interconnected, innovative, and inclusive Asia-Pacific region. And by November, we had worked with APEC members very hard to drive forward on specific outcomes by consensus, agreement across all 21 economies, with the finalization of the APEC Leaders Golden Gate Declaration. Some of the outcomes up on the screen here I think are important, that all economies agreed on the San Francisco principles on integrating inclusivity and sustainability into trade and investment policies. They all agreed on principles for achieving food security through sustainable agri-food systems. They all agreed on just energy transition principles and on an updated disaster risk reduction framework, as well as other progress that was made in the energy, digital, anti-corruption, women's economic empowerment spaces, to name a few. And the Biden-Harris administration also used APEC Leaders Week in San Francisco as a platform for engagement on, not too far, nope. Okay, sorry about that. But also used it as a platform for engagement on other global economic initiatives, including the finalization of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework with 13 other partners. And we highlighted private sector investments from APEC economies into the United States, totaling $200 billion since the start of the Biden administration. And importantly, the APEC Leaders Meeting also was a backdrop for the very important bilateral meeting between President Biden and President Xi, a key development for the US-China bilateral relationship and for the region, which President Biden emphasized in his remarks at the APEC CEO Summit. So as noted at the outset, the US APEC host year was a full year-long journey that was just getting started when I traveled here to SAUPO last April. We hosted more than 300 meetings, including 10 ministerial level meetings, which were hosted by US cabinet secretaries like Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, our US Trade Representative Catherine Tai, Secretary of State Blinken, Health and Human Services Secretary DeSera, etc. And then culminated with that leaders meeting hosted by President Biden with the other leaders from the region. So each cluster of meetings from Honolulu to Palm Springs to Detroit to Seattle to San Francisco was larger and more complex than the last. And stakeholder engagement was an integral piece of our success last year. Our team was very capably led by Sue Koo, who many of you know, our stakeholder engagement lead during the APEC host year, who, among other, for many accomplishments, she introduced us to this conference at SAUPO. So we're grateful to Sue for that. And whether here in Atlanta, or in Chicago, or Pittsburgh, or Rockville, or New York, or Los Angeles, or any of the cities where we hosted APEC meetings, our APEC team prioritized engaging with and listening to as many stakeholders as possible across the country, both to explain our APEC host year and what we were trying to accomplish, but also, even more importantly, to hear directly from stakeholders regarding the policy positions that we should take when we went into negotiations during the APEC meetings. So this year, we're a little bit more relaxed because APEC is in Peru. So we don't have to worry about hosting it. We do get to enjoy ceviche and pisco sours and a lot of other things. But Peru is doing a great job under the slogan of Empower, Include, and Grow. And the United States takes very seriously our responsibility to continue to utilize APEC as a platform to advance trade investment, innovation, and sustainable and inclusive growth goals, looking out for small and medium-sized enterprises, looking out for underrepresented groups, to benefit all Americans in the Asia-Pacific region as a whole. And then, as we did in San Francisco, Peru is looking forward to hosting APEC Economic Leaders Week in November with a robust series of events to advance economic growth in the region. And in the meantime, we're looking forward to 6 busy months ahead of ministerial meetings, senior officials meetings, and working groups. And I'll be in Peru next in a few weeks in Arequipa for the next senior officials meetings and also the ministers responsible for trade meeting. On this slide, I want to highlight what that picture on the right is because it wasn't evident to me when I looked at it the first time, but that's all of the leaders around the table in San Francisco from an aerial view. So it's kind of a cool photo, but I know I looked at it and didn't realize what it was until it took a few minutes. So I'll throw that out there, but that's President Biden hosting the other leaders. And as was the case with everything we do, we want to ensure we're keeping in touch with all of our stakeholders, so including all of you here in the room and those joining us virtually. So you can follow us online, you can follow us on LinkedIn. We have a US APEC LinkedIn page. And also my very important plug here at the end for all the students, please also go to careers.state.gov, which is the State Department's platform for sharing information about State Department careers. Because for me, one of the reasons it's really exciting to come to a conference like this is because, yes, we want to do stakeholder engagement with a broad array of stakeholders, but clearly the most important subset of that are students. All of you will be the future leaders of our country. We want you to keep thinking, keep innovating, keep asking questions, keep challenging the current folks who are out there like myself and others who are trying to do our best to make the world a better place at this moment in time, because we're going to pass the baton to you. I'm really excited to do so. But thank you again for inviting me back, and really delighted to be able to share what we were able to accomplish last year. Thank you.
The federal government seems to be far and distant, right? We know that they take tax from us, federal tax. This is tax season, so that's your direct experience with federal government. But today we have federal speakers here. I can tell you, in my 15 years of organizing SAUPO conference, we have really good people working in the federal government. They're hardworking and they're very cautious of spending taxpayer money. For example, Matt Murray arrived today because he did not want to spend one night here to spend your money on the hotel. So they're very frugal with your tax money. And if you have any questions or you have any suggestions for the federal government, they're right here. I don't know why it's funny, but I'm just telling you the truth. Next, we have a speaker from the Chinese government. For some of you, you may be afraid of Chinese government. Oh, Communist Party, Chinese government. They are also very nice people, hardworking, frugal. Next, I would like to introduce to you Honorable Jianying Zhao, Deputy General Representative, China Council for the Promotion of International Trade, China Chamber of International Commerce, Ms. Zhao Jianying. She flew in last night in the heavy rain to Atlanta from Washington. Thank you, Ms. Zhao.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good day. And I believe that you have a wonderful and fruitful morning session. And I feel greatly honored to speak at this SAUPO again for the second time. And I think thanks for the invitation extended to me by Madam Gao so that I can meet some old friends and new friends. To be honest, when Madam Gao delivered the invitation to me and asked me actually sign a task to say something about the sustainability strategies, AI and high tech, as well as the global manufacturing and business. My first reaction was, oh, I'm not a high tech guy. That is too much. Maybe I can ask ChatGPT or Copilot to compose a speech for me. And within a second, it was there. You know? And I think some parts need some polish. And then I asked it to rewrite again. And within a second, another one was there. The speech was wonderful, logical, but I'm not going to use it today. But, you know, I'm just wondering how many of us will lose jobs in the future, or maybe in the very near future. And I'm also wondering, because the next year, the SAUPO is going to be held in Japan, whether at that time, Madam Gao will invite the Sora to speak on my behalf, you know. And as we all know, the United States is quite famous for its robust innovation ecosystem, and it is a cradle for the economic, technological breakthroughs. During my very short stay here in the United States, I was deeply impressed by the, the breakthroughs made by American companies such as Microsoft, OpenAI, NVIDIA, and these are the testimonies of the environment that nurtures creativity and constantly transforming the visionary ideas into reality. You know, when I watched, in the social media, the short videos by the SpaceX, they are launching the rockets into the sky. I just cannot help remembering a very Chinese saying, 生活不仅仅是眼前的苟且，也有诗和远方. So it means that the life is not just everyday struggles. It also indicates the beauty of poetry as well as the promise of a horizon. So this is America. I was deeply impressed. But of course, China also enjoys its competitive advantages in its skilled manpower and sophisticated infrastructure, its vast market, as well as a shift from the mere imitation to the genuine innovation in the technological field. But to be honest, the true success, the measurement of success, is not the products or the patents, but the improvement of people's lives. You know, I think owing to China's opening up and the international collaboration between China with the rest of the world, especially with the United States, we have witnessed substantial progress of Chinese people's livelihood has been improved, and for the past 40 years. Because today in the morning session, we have heard speeches. In the sessions, they talked about the ChatGPT, talked about the telecommunication. Just taking the telecommunication as an example, for the past 40 years, and also take my personal experience as an example, because many Chinese people had access to the landline phones only in the 1990s. And also we had the access to the brick phones, 大哥大, very big phones, and the computers only in the years. You know, when I was in the university, we had this computer center in the campus. And only recently, we had this smartphones. But, you know, currently, my home, maybe I have 7 or 8 computers. And my parents, the older generation, are getting quite used to the smartphones. They use the smartphones for the TikToks, you know, the Douyin, Xiaohongshu, whatever they can get. So, but you know, I have also read books in the Chips War. It elaborated the technological breakthroughs from the 1950s till the present day. And also the AI as a concept has already been raised in the United States in the 1950s. So we can see this vast gap, but also the convenience and the global connectivity brought by the openness and the international cooperation. My organization, CCPIT, is the largest trade and investment promotion organization in China. And it is always a bridge linking the private and public sectors and also linking the Chinese domestic and foreign companies. And also in this sense, for the openness and international cooperation, CCPIT has initiated the first China International Supply Chain Expo. And forgive me if I'm doing an advertisement. This event is going to be held in Beijing in November. This event is a quite high-ranking event and well attended by the very senior Chinese government officials, the business communities both from China and the rest of the world. And also it is a platform linking the government, the academia and the research. So this event is going to be held this year from November 26th to 30th. It is Thanksgiving time. So if you have the holidays or your kids have the holidays, why not visit China during that time? Because it will highlight the manufacturing, also the digital technologies, healthy life, green agriculture. So you can visit China at that time. So what I want to say is that openness and international cooperation is very important. So it can help us to drive through the shared journey towards an even brighter future. So thanks again for the opportunity to be here and to share my thoughts with you. And I hope that this SAUPO has a wonderful success. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Who is a member on SAUPO advisory board in the Chicago area. And I'm going to answer his question. He started to be a speaker at SAUPO back in 2015 at the St. Regis Hotel. Was that a correct answer?
Yes, you get the book.
So, Mr. George Mui has been instrumental in getting us all these wonderful speakers from the federal government because he used to work at the White House and he has all the connections. In beyond his time of going fishing, he's been building relationships. So I would like to invite him to introduce the next VIP keynote speaker.
So the real reason why I'm here is to wake you up. So, Ambassador Murray, where is he? The real reason why you get promoted is you had a selfie with me last year. That's the real reason. And Deputy General Zhao, where are you? You will be promoted next because you had a selfie with me yesterday, last night. And then the next person I learned to love and work with for 50 years, which is my former boss and colleague, Ms. Joann Hill. But I want to make justice that she probably had like 600 selfies with me for the last 15 years, but it took so long before she got promoted. And her new title, just 3 months ago, right? You got promoted as, I gotta get it correct. She's a Senior Executive Service, SCS, which is a big deal in federal government, in charge of, as a Director of Office of Customer Experience at the Minority Business Development Agency. Congratulations, Joann. I want to share this with you. one of my role at Department of Commerce is really to push the envelope. Push the envelope as in, we left, with Joann's support, 4 delegations to China, 1 delegation to Philippines for APACs, and that's something they haven't done before. And for coming to SAUPO for like, I think 7 times, it's all because Joann said, this makes sense. Otherwise, well, thanks, Joann. Now, some of the people here would say, maybe you should not have approved me coming here. But I just want you to do Joann as the hardest working person. My job as her most favorite employee is to actually get her out of the office. Is that not true? And I set the bar at 7 o'clock. She will not leave the office until I come to office to get her out of the office so to enjoy her personal life. But since I retired 4 years ago, you might still be working till midnight. But with that, federal government employee has a bad rap that we don't do enough to support you using your tax dollar. Joann is an exception. She's really there for you, and in this case, all the minority businesses. Joann Hill.
What would this conference be without a movie selfie? And now he's in the videos. That's a new one. Good afternoon. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you today at SAUPO, and I have to tell you, my journey within this community started many years ago with the Association of Chinese Professionals. I started my career in the MBDA Atlanta Regional Office here in downtown Atlanta. I was here, I'm an Emory grad, B school. In fact, they took us to China as a part of our international colloquium. We visited Shanghai, Beijing, and Tokyo while we were there, and we had the experience to look at some of America's best corporations that had a footprint in those countries and what that meant to us as a nation with regard to bilateral trade, as well as the evolving global competitiveness of the U.S. and its stance with other international partners. And so that really helped me to continue my journey as a business development specialist at the Department of Commerce, everything that America does for business in America. For those of you who don't know, commerce is literally everything that we do as a nation that relates to business. Just to give a snapshot, you're familiar with Chips for America, right? Everything that's evolving around the semiconductor industry, one of the fastest and strongest growing industries within America. We have the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. When you turn your TVs on in the morning and you look at the news, that's NOAA. All of that. We also have a space commerce division where we're doing everything related to space. The other day, I was at the U.S. Trade Representative for Africa's office, and we were in this meeting, and the National Science Foundation strategically gave these glasses that you go out and look at the lunar eclipse, right? So everybody leaves the meeting, they stop the meeting and say, we've got to go out there and look at the lunar eclipse, and the whole Department of Commerce is out there on the curve, which is a couple of blocks over, looking at this. We deal with everything from, you heard communication about broadband, all things related to broadband and being able to communicate, right? All across America, both in urban communities as well as rural communities. We have everything that relates to manufacturing. When you talk about commerce and you talk about what we're exporting and where are we selling it and where are we exchanging bilateral trade within these different industry clusters. Commerce. So I had to give you that, so you know. I'm sure Secretary Raimondo would be happy to know that and proud to know that I'm here, Matt, talking about all things commerce and what it means to America and our relationships and future. I want to first thank you, Dr. Zhao, for your amazing work and everything that you've done to grow this organization since 2011. MBDA has been fortunate to be a part of SAUPO's annual symposium since its creation. I was in attendance for the first symposium back in 2011,
and it's inspiring to see how much it has grown over the decade or so. Yes. Yes. So thank you to all of you, and thank you for your continued support of SAUPO and for what it will continue to evolve into the future. Let me tell you a little bit about MBDA. MBDA plays a unique role in the federal government. We are the only federal agency that is solely exists to foster the growth and global competitiveness of minority business enterprises. And under the Biden-Harris administration, our impact has grown significantly. So much so, we have become a permanent agency. The agency was created back in 1969. We turned 55 years old this year under President Richard Nixon as a temporary federal agency. Then, in 2021, President Biden signed into law the Minority Business Development Act, making MBDA a permanent federal agency for the first time in our history. This gave our agency greater reach, impact, and authority, ultimately elevating us as a leading voice for minority business enterprises throughout America. We accomplish our mission in two ways. First, by providing technical assistance and support services to individual businesses through our national network of 131 business centers and programs located throughout America. And Marty, I see you over there, from Georgia Tech, is one of our partners. And second, we work to improve the entrepreneurial ecosystem by breaking down systemic barriers and expanding access to opportunities. Our network of programmatic investments includes our business center programs and initiatives that serve every state within the United States and all territories within the country. What makes our network unique is that our centers and programs are operated by community-based third-party organizations and entities. That includes our programmatic investments operated by the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander centric organizations, such as National ACE. How many of you know Shilling Tong? Hands? Yay. If you don't know Shilling, National ACE is one of our premier partners. They are a national Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander chamber. They have about 120 affiliates throughout America. They're going to have a huge event next month in celebration of Asian American Heritage Month. I'll tell you more about that before I close out. But the California Asian Pacific Chamber is another partner, and the Asian Pacific Islander Chamber of Commerce, which is also a national partner of ours. I understand, and we understand, the minority business community is not a monolith. And more so, and even more so, Asian American businesses and business communities are not a monolith. What is a challenge for a Korean American-owned business may not be the same challenge facing a Vietnamese American-owned business. In fiscal year 2023, MBDA had one of its most impactful years. We helped America's minority and underserved businesses secure $5.4 billion with a B, $5.4 billion in capital and contracts. That includes helping this community, the AA and HPI businesses, secure over $650 million in capital and contracts. I think that deserves a big round of applause. And I'm proud to say that our impact is continuing to expand. Last year, we underwent the largest expansion to our network in the agency's history with the launch of what we call the Capital Readiness Program. This is a partnership that we struck with the U.S. Department of Treasury. The Capital Readiness Program is a technical assistance program designed to help underserved entrepreneurs launch and grow their businesses. Through this initiative, the agency has funded 43 business incubators and accelerators specifically designed to help these entrepreneurs. And of those 43 capital readiness programs, 7 of them are entities that specialize in serving AA and HPI communities. National ACE is one of them. So if you see Jianying, you let her know, or one of her entities. They got a little over $3 million to do this annually to help businesses. The Capital Readiness Program will help businesses do 3 things. Number 1, build capacity. Number 2, expand access to networks. And number 3, expand access to capital opportunities, capital as in finance. They help businesses on the incubator side that are startups to growing companies, and on the accelerator side, they're helping the companies that are a little more sophisticated with everything from private equity to venture capital. The primary purpose will be to prepare our business owners to secure capital from the State Small Business Credit Initiative, or commonly referred to as SSBCI. For those of you that don't know, the SSBCI is essentially a $10 billion capital fund for America's small businesses. If you don't know what it is, you should get familiar with what it is. If you have a small business and you need access to capital, we have the State Small Business Credit Initiative, again, that has $10 billion that is designed to help grow and expand America's businesses through growth and expansion. Our Capital Readiness Program is the largest ever federal investment of its kind in small businesses to provide technical assistance. We are connecting billions of dollars in capital to businesses in your communities and others like it across the country. As you can see, MBDA's impact is continuing to grow under the Biden-Harris administration. In just a few years, we have grown our network from 70 centers and programs to 131. That includes the launch of our rural program initiative. You heard me talk about rural earlier. Expanding the reach of 26 of our centers to serve businesses that are located throughout rural America. In recent years, our budget was around $20 million. Now, we oversee nearly $200 million in funds, including the Capital Readiness Program. So no, George, I'm not leaving the office before midnight.
I'm glad.
They accuse me of having a pillow and a throw in my office to sleep under my desk, but somebody's got to do the work. Also, we have entered into collaboration with federal agencies such as the Department of Transportation. You heard mention of Secretary Pete Buttigieg just when Matt was speaking, U.S. Department of Energy, NASA, Exim Bank, and more. And these relationships are designed to help expand federal procurement opportunities for our clients and to help them meet their federal procurement goals that have been laid out under Executive Order 13985. And for those of you that might not be as familiar, that executive order essentially just centers on equity and procurement within the federal government. With these historic steps forward, MBDA is positioning itself to make a difference for our clients right now and for generations to come. If you're an AANHPI business owner, MBDA is here to help you. Please look to us if you need help to grow your business and to access contracts, both corporate as well as private sector contracts, as well as going global through global markets opportunities. And if you're a federal agency or private sector organization, I know you said you were private sector. We have a lot of third-party private sector partners. We want to partner with you, to help you understand how you can take advantage of the resources that we have. And if you would like to learn more about MBDA, please visit our website at mbda.gov. And I would also encourage you next month. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge this, talking about the Department of Commerce and the value that it places on this community. For those of you who might not know, former Secretary of Commerce Norm Mineta, our auditorium where we host all of these amazing events at the Department of Commerce has been named after Norman Mineta of Asian American descent. Former Secretary George is smiling and nodding. We will be memorializing that and putting a placard on the auditorium that's been named after him on May 15th in honor of Asian American Heritage Month. Shilling Tong is leading that event, National ACE, so I would invite all of you to consider coming and being a part of what will be a glorious occasion. And again, it's been an honor and privilege to be here with you, and I shall say, 谢谢。